Sage.
Hi, Danny.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Now, how are you really feeling? I'm feeling a little stressed.
Tired.
Yeah, that's fair. Tired, stressed, anxiety's on high. Not gonna even lie about it.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's just the way she goes, I guess, in 2020 election pandemic times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna really talk about it very much.
No, I think by the time we post this, hopefully it'll be announced.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be over. Also, while I mean, you know, it's our podcast and I want to talk about things we care about, I think that we're not a political podcast, so
You guys know how we feel. I think
yeah.
it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we need to clarify
I don't
anything.
think we need to clarify.
So,
Bernie 2020, we'll settle for Biden 2020.
yeah. They both start with a B, close enough. So, today, we are kicking it off with our first episode. Well, I mean, technically our second, but our first full episode on serial killers. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, so this one is, I'm not even gonna fucking lie to you, this one's heavy. I'm gonna just put a very broad content warning. There's some shitty stuff in this one. I mean, there's shitty stuff in every murder. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's not. A little introduction written up here, and it's just it'll give you a little overview. So Fred and Rosemary West. Oh, have I said that that's who I'm doing?
No, you haven't.
Oh my god, I'm doing Fred and Rosemary West. So if you haven't heard of these guys, they are, I would say, maybe not over here. I feel like most people that I've mentioned them to don't really know who they are, because they are from England. So over here, not super well known, but they're pretty classic, hardcore, awful people. They were
Classic awful people.
yeah, just the classic awful people.
You know.
Well, I just feel like every bad thing that they could do, they did. So, like, there's... so they were a married couple who raped, tortured, and murdered 13 young women between the ages of 8 and 27 that we're aware of before the end of their spree over the span of 20 years, starting in 1967. Among these victims were Charmaine West, Fred's daughter, and Heather West, who were Fred and Rosemary's daughter, or who was Fred and Rosemary's daughter, as well as Rena West, who was Fred West's wife. So, not good, to say the least. I'm just gonna jump into it. Feel free to stop me, ask me questions. Because yeah, this is gonna kind of be like not a very fun one to get through, but I mean very interesting. Also, fucking hone your instincts, ladies. So I'm gonna start with Fred West. He was born September 29th, 1941. He was a Libra. In Bickerton Cottage, Muchmarkel, Herefordshire, in England, just under 200 kilometers from London. His parents were cow farmers, and his father, Walter, was much, much older than his 16-year-old wife, Daisy. Fred was second born of 6 children. He was raised on his father's motto of do what you want, just don't get caught doing it. And this would serve as the words Fred would live by for the rest of his life. Fred was introduced to sex when he was only 12 years old by losing his virginity to his mother.
Oh, God.
Fucking rough.
Oh.
12 years old. In addition to this fucked upness, Fred's father, Walter, also had an incestuous relationship with his sister. Talk about keeping it in the family.
Keep that bloodline strong.
Fucking the Wests, man.
West blood.
The West blood. As if this wasn't enough, Walter also introduced his son to the world of bestiality by teaching him the best way to fuck a sheep.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just want to... Mm-hmm. I know nothing about this story. I've never heard of these people in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're starting off... we start off bad, and it gets worse. Like, it doesn't get better from here. So,
it's worse than a sheep.
Yeah, I mean... that, okay. That's the only bestiality we'll talk about tonight. but it gets worse than fucking a sheep, yes. So throughout his adolescence, Fred was constantly in trouble at school as he had a penchant for groping girls he went to school with. As he got older, he only got more aggressive and bold in his objectification and assault. Shortly after his 17th birthday, Fred purchased a motorcycle and soon was in a serious accident resulting in a fractured skull, a broken arm, and a broken leg. He remained unconscious.
Head injury.
Oh, yeah. He remained unconscious for 7 days.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was fucking
in the hospital, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was picturing him just in the street. Just left him there crushed.
His parents are like, fuck that guy.
He's fine. He'll get up.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, he was in the hospital unconscious for fucking 7 days. And 2 years later, he had another accident caused by him groping a girl on a fire escape. She punched him, and he fell off. And fell, literally, good for you, girl. Fell directly on his head and was unconscious for 24 hours.
And this was in, like, what, the 60s? Sorry, I just want to know where women were at this point.
No, 1950s.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. Yes. 50s to early 60s.
Nice. So this wasn't a 90s woman. This was a 50s woman. That makes it even better.
Yeah, the late 50s woman. Because 3 years later, we have more information. But yeah, he was unconscious for 24 hours, and then he also, based off of this injury and his previous injury, he had a permanent limp. So, because he fucking hurt his foot, or broke his leg, is what it was. He broke his leg, and then he kind of like exacerbated it when he fell off a fucking building because he groped some girl, and permanent limp. So, fuck you, Fred. In 1961, when he was 20 years old, he had begun a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old girl and got her pregnant.
Oh.
And there is some debate as to whether or not the 13-year-old girl was his sister, Kitty. When he was arrested and asked why he would fuck a 13-year-old, you want to know what his response was? This just kind of gives you an insight into, like, his brain and how completely messed up his, like, view of the world was. He literally said, "Doesn't everybody?"
Oh, God.
Yep.
No, Fred. No.
Fred, nobody does that, Fred. Or at least nobody worth knowing.
No.
Following this incident, Fred's family completely disowned him. It's an odd place to draw the line if you ask me.
Yeah,
but
we'll draw the line
fair.
at 13-year-olds, but losing your virginity to
To your
your
mom?
mom at 12.
That's fine. Also,
No, it's fine 'cause
fucking
it's in the
sheep,
family.
go for it. Yeah, literally though, like, keep it in the family. That's what it is. Fred, after that, moved to Herefordshire. So he met his first wife, Catherine Bernadette Costello, or Rena, when he was 21 in 1962. They were married later that year and moved to Glasgow, Scotland, where Fred got a job as an ice cream truck driver. Rena was already pregnant with the child of a Pakistani bus driver when they had tied the knot, and Fred, surprisingly, rather than throw Rena under the bus for having child out of wedlock, helped her work out a story to tell their friends and family. What they said was that Rena had suffered a miscarriage with Fred, and in order to fill the gap in their life, the married couple decided to adopt a mixed-race child. Everyone fucking was like, yeah, okay, sure. So they named the child Charmaine, and she was born in 1963.
Did nobody just see her pregnant for 9 months?
No,
hide out?
no, but they said she had a miscarriage. So everyone knew she was pregnant, but as soon as they had the baby...
she had a miscarriage, like, at 9 months?
Yeah. So they said basically the baby died, and because she was so far along, they,
She died, and conveniently there was this one available.
Yeah, literally. Inconvenient. This newborn child was just waiting. So, although pretty common, people used to do that very often.
I guess.
They, because you weren't supposed to have babies when you weren't married back then. So, yeah. Everyone totally believed it. They're like, yeah, okay, sure. Sounds great. 1 year later, Rena and Fred had their first biological child together, named Anne-Marie. While it was widely known that Rena was a loving and kind mother, Fred was quickly earning a reputation as a harsh disciplinary figure in the household. It was even rumored that he would put up bars on the children's beds, creating a makeshift cage for them, and only allowed them out when he was not home. In 1967, Fred impregnated the nanny of his children, Anne McFall. Anne had become infatuated with Fred and wanted to take over Rena's role in the family, and had even on more than one occasion tried to convince Fred to leave his wife and marry her instead. God knows why. And at the young age of 18, at this time Fred is 26 and 18 months pregnant. Or 8 months pregnant. Oh my, could you imagine 18 months pregnant? That's a long, yeah. No, age of 18, 8 months pregnant, and just completely disappeared. No one knew anything about her whereabouts until June 1994, when her remains were unearthed between Muchmarkel and Kempley. Her body was left in a state that would soon become the MO, or mode of operation, which we've kind of talked about before. Basically how he does things. For nearly all of the victims of Fred and Rosemary's, which being her fingers, toes, and kneecaps were all removed. However, most gruesome of all, her unborn child had been cut out of her stomach, and the same treatment had been applied to the unborn fetus.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. So this means that Fred, not only did he kill this woman, but he cut his child out of her stomach and removed the fingers, toes, and kneecaps of his own child.
Reason, Fred? For what reason?
Yes, why Fred?
How pregnant was she? You said 8 months.
8 months. So it was a baby. It was like a full fucking baby.
So
Yeah. Finally, in 1969, after years of abuse and basically Fred having affairs on her, Rena left Fred for good, placing their children in his care. That same year, Fred met a 15-year-old girl when he was 28 at a bus station in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire. I think it's Gloucestershire, right? Gloucestershire? Gloucestershire.
Gloucestershire.
Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire.
There you go.
All right. He met a 15-year-old girl at a bus station in Gloucestershire.
Why you're saying it like that?
What? You mean Gloucestershire?
Gloucestershire.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to try my best to pronounce things, in the authentic British way from here on out. All right, so although the young girl was initially grossed out by Fred and completely uninterested in his attention, he persevered. He gave her continuous attention and paid her near constant compliments and even started giving her gifts. She soon agreed to accompany him on a date. All right, so now we're going to move on. We're going to talk about Rosemary. Okay, so the other half of our dynamic, awful rapist duo. So, born Rosemary Letts in November 29th, 1953, she's a Sagittarius, in Barnstaple, Devon, England. She was the fifth born of 7 children. Both of her parents, Daisy Fuller, so interesting, Rosemary's mom and Fred's mom, both were named Daisy. And William Letts had severe mental illnesses. Her mother suffered depression and went through electroshock therapy as treatment while she was pregnant with Rosemary.
Oh my god.
Yep. The 50s were a wild time. Everyone was getting fucking, what's it called? When they stick the shit up your nose and make you a zombie.
Cocaine.
Everyone was getting lobotomies and electric shock therapy when they were
Everyone was
pregnant.
getting cocaine.
Cocaine for you. Fucking lobotomy for you. Electroshock for you.
Oh god.
So yeah, she went through electroshock throughout her entire pregnancy with Rosemary to cure her depression. Spoiler alert, it didn't work.
Yeah, you don't say. I feel like that make you more depressed.
Right? I don't see how that could help, but that's just me. Her father was a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic with OCD. He was formerly in the Navy and prone to violent fits of rage. She's not doing okay. She's not good. When she was an infant, she had a penchant for violently rocking her entire body to the point where if she were to sit in an unsupervised pram, her pram would roll away.
Holy shit.
Yeah. As she got older, her rocking calmed down a bit, although she would still rock her head back and forth, sometimes for hours at a time. Throughout her young life, Rosemary would garner a reputation for being slow. She earned the nickname Dozy Rosie.
That's like
it's
a
kinda
mean
cute.
nickname, but it's kind of cute.
It's kind of cute.
It's gonna be cute.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of cute nicknames for Rosemary.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rosemary's parents separated when she was a teenager, and she originally moved out with her mother. However, after only 6 months, Rosie left her mother's and moved in with her father in Bishop's Cleeve, which is also in Gloucester. She was reportedly involved in a sexual relationship with her father, who also sexually abused her older sister. Allegedly, the situation with her dad would continue until his death, well into her relationship with Fred after she no longer lived with him.
Fuck.
Yep. So in addition to the claims of her inappropriate relationship with her father, it has also been brought forward that she would sneak into her younger brother's rooms at night and molest them.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
So I don't know how two people with these fucked up, insane relationships with their parents and family managed to find each other, but
I
they
mean,
did.
You
and it's
get what
not
you give in
good.
life, and I mean, I guess you were
I
both
guess
getting and giving the same shit.
they were manifesting
They were
what they
God.
wanted in a partner, I guess.
They don't have kids, do they?
Oh, just you wait.
Oh.
Yeah. So soon after moving into her father's home, Rosemary met a man at a bus station, and even though she was initially repulsed by his haggard appearance, was soon won over by his constant attention and gifts. Almost immediately, she began a relationship with the man and became a full-time nanny to his children, Charmaine and Anne-Marie. Months later, Rose introduced the man to her parents, who both had an immediate and intense dislike for him, her mother believing him to be a pathological liar and her father threatening to call social services on him if he were to continue his relationship with Rosie. Surprise! The man.
That's saying a lot,
Yep.
considering who her fucking dad
Literally.
was.
Yeah. So, surprise! It's Fred! So, no one likes this guy. Even the fucking awful incesty and electroshocked parents. Yeah, so she said, whatever, you can't tell me what to do. And her parents did, in fact, call social services. Because remember, she was only 15 and he was almost 30 years old. So after her parents called social services, she was placed in a home for troubled teenagers. She was only able to leave occasionally, and when she was, she almost immediately went to visit Fred every single time. When she turned 16, on her 16th birthday, Rosie was released from the home and returned to her father's house, as her man was serving a 30-day sentence for theft. However, as soon as he was released, Rosie packed up and peaced out and moved in with Fred in Cheltenham. Her father forbade her from ever stepping foot in his house again. 3 months later, the couple moved into a 2-story house in Midland Road, Gloucester. So also, her father did forbid her from ever stepping foot into his house again, but we'll see later that he didn't mean he never wanted to see her. He's just not allowed in the house. So we'll talk about that later.
What the
In October 1970, Rosemary birthed the couple's first child, Heather Ann West. Although there is serious and not all that unreasonable suspicion that Heather was actually fathered by Rosie's dad, William. So, 2 months after Fred was sent back, 2 months after Heather's birth, Fred was sent back to prison again for theft, and this time for over 6 months. This left Rosie, who was only 17 at the time, to look after 3 young girls with absolutely no support from anyone. According to Charmaine and Anne-Marie, Rosemary would often physically and emotionally abuse them. Charmaine being older and more quote-unquote defiant, meaning she just wouldn't cry, basically. No matter what Rosie would do to her, she was a very stoic young girl. Often got the worst of Rosie's rages. Charmaine would often talk about her real mommy and how her real mommy would come and get her one day and how her real mommy would never yell at them, which made Rose pretty angry. There were numerous hospital reports of Charmaine being treated for unusual injuries, including a severe puncture wound on her ankle. Rose explained this away as a household accident. The last time little Charmaine was seen was on June 15th, 1971, only 9 days before Fred was slotted to be released from prison. It's believed that Rose took a beating too far and ended up killing the young girl. When asked about where the child had gone, she told everyone that Rena had come and taken the girl to live with her in Bristol. Rena, of course, being Fred's first wife and Charmaine and Anne-Marie's mother. When Anne-Marie asked her father why Rena would come for Charmaine and not for her, Fred told her that his mom wouldn't want her because she was the wrong color. Of course, talking about the fact that Charmaine was of mixed race and Anne-Marie was not. So this is sad. I'm going to talk a little bit about Charmaine's murder. So Charmaine's body was initially stowed in the coal cellar of the Midland Road house until Fred was released from prison. He later buried her naked body in the yard close to the back door of the flat, and he remained adamant that he had not dismembered her when he was later questioned by the police. However, during her autopsy, it was determined that little Charmaine was missing her fingers, toes, and kneecaps.
The fuck?
Yeah. Fred's first wife, Rena, maintained sporadic contact with her children when she and Fred separated. She often visited Fred's family in Muchmarkel, Hertfordshire, to inquire as to her children's whereabouts and their welfare in the last kind of half of August in 1971, when Charmaine went missing. Fred's sister-in-law, Christine, later remembered Rena was depressed and extremely anxious about her children's welfare. Being provided with Fred's Midland Road address from his family, who she'd gone basically to be like, where is he? Where's my kids? Like, I'm looking for them. She went and saw his parents and got his address, and she went to confront him, most likely to discuss or demand custody of her children. And this was the final time that Rena was seen alive. She is believed to have been murdered by strangulation, possibly in the back seat of Fred's Ford Popular, and it's pretty likely that he got her drunk first. When Rena's body was discovered, a short length of metal tubing was found with her remains, leaving an equal possibility that she had been restrained and subjected to sexual assault prior to her murder. The body was extensively dismembered, placed in plastic bags, and buried. On January 29th, 1972, Fred and Rosemary West married in Gloucester, and on June 1st of that year, Rosemary gave birth to their second daughter, May. Around this time, West encouraged his wife into prostitution. Rosemary eventually had 7 children, of which 3 were mixed race. Needing a bigger house, the family moved into 25 Cromwell Street, which is, I would say, one of the most, if not the most, infamous addresses in England, where West converted the upper floor to bed visiting areas. So when we say that Fred encouraged his wife to do prostitution, I mean, he fucking loved it. Like, he loved watching. There's peepholes. He put in peepholes everywhere. He used to film it all the time. Like, he loved it. We even have found fucking ads placed in newspapers for Rosemary selling herself. And they literally, it specifically asks for well-endowed men. So he loved it. And she also actually enjoyed it too. It's a weird situation. 2 really fucked up people. I'm not saying that, sex work is fucked up. That's not, I just mean in this specific situation, this is a weird one. So yeah, he even had a room that he called Rose's room that had peepholes all around it and a red light outside the door that she could turn on and off, warning her kids not to enter when she's busy, basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And this is, we're going back to Bill, William, Rosemary's dad. With Fred's approval, Bill would often come in and visit their home to visit Rose's room.
What the?
Right? It's so fucked up. Like, it literally boggles my brain. Yeah. So that's they did that. They really did that. In October 1972, the West hired 17-year-old Caroline Roberts as the children's nanny. She rejected Fred and Rosemary when they made advances to basically invite her into their sex circle, and she left a few weeks later. Good for you.
Yeah, good.
On the 6th of December, so a couple months later, the West invited her back into their home. They're like, sorry, like, we won't do that anymore. Like, we just, our kids love you. We really just want you back. And she's like, okay, but you promise you're not gonna, like, ask me to do that anymore? And they're like, yeah, we promise. And she's like, okay, fine. So, they go back into her house. She goes back into their house, and they immediately knock her out, tie her up, and rape her. Both of them.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Roberts reported the rape to the police, but immediately withdrew the accusation when the case came to court because she was too scared to testify. So this isn't, something that they were like, oh, evidence is circumstantial. It was like straight up, no, this is what happened. They would have gone to prison, and maybe things would have changed if she hadn't been too scared. But the West, when they did stuff like this, like, they would cover your entire head with masking tape. And by entire head, I don't mean like your eyes. They would literally wrap you up like a fucking mummy, your entire head. Mm-hmm. They were terrifying.
And I mean, like, even like rape accusations and shit now aren't taken seriously. I couldn't even imagine if it was back then. Cause
right,
it's like,
in the 70s.
This is a family with 7 kids.
Yeah.
Like, and you were there by yourself, and you're saying both of them did this. Like, they're they have good jobs, and they have 7 kids. Like,
yeah. And their neighbors, I mean, they weren't really close with any of their neighbors, but they were known as like a fun and kind of quirky, but like nice people.
Yeah, like friendly.
Yeah. So even though, despite her not wanting to testify, they had them completely. The West, and here's the thing too, is they pleaded guilty. What? Like, she was like, this is what happened to me. This is what they did. This is what they did. This was what they did. And they were like, yeah, we did all of those things.
I wonder if they like threatened her on the side or something.
Well, they might have, but they fucking literally pleaded guilty in court.
Yeah, but if they plead guilty and then she drops the charges because she won't testify.
She didn't drop the charges. She just didn't want to testify. Yeah. Well, either way, because she didn't they didn't testify, or she didn't want to testify, sorry. They received a reduced charge of indecent assault and were fined £50. And that's it. That's all there was. Yep. So, after this, the West began abusing Heather, their daughter, who disappeared a few years later. And by abused, I mean they were raping her. Later, when questioned by the police, and I mean years after when they had been caught, Fred claimed that he had not meant to kill her, but she had been sneering at him and he had to take the smirk off her face. That's a direct quote. Rosemary told an inquiring neighbor the following day, after Heather went missing, that she and Heather had one hell of a row. So it's believed that Rosemary may have initiated her death. Hell of a row meaning a fight. They had a fight. The Wests told their children, so her siblings, that Heather had left for a job in Devon, but later changed the story to her having run off with a lesbian lover.
Oh, nice.
When she failed to contact or visit them. So originally they're like, oh, she just, she got a job, so she went to do that. And then years later, when the kids were like, we still haven't heard from Heather, they're like, well, actually.
Those fucking lesbians.
And
always running away.
Yeah, always running away and never talking to their family ever again. Ugh. And later, still, Fred would threaten the children that they would end up under the patio like Heather if they misbehaved. That was his little joke. It was very funny.
Fred, be a little lighter about it, my friend. My grandma used to tell me she'd hang me by my toes in the garden shed.
Yeah, see,
that's all in good fun.
Yeah, that's like, you're gonna not like fucking. You're gonna end up under the patio like your sister. Like, okay. In early 1973, Fred West took 8-year-old Anne Marie into the cellar where he bound and gagged her before he raped her. The girl was later found by her siblings on the floor, sobbing that her father had raped and sodomized her, and at one stage partially strangled her. When Rose returned home, the girl confided in her mother about what happened. Rose simply replied, "Oh well, you were asking for it." She told friends at school what had happened. On the 4th of August, one of the friends that she had told her mother, and they went to the police. On the 6th of August in 1992, the police decided to investigate. So this is years later, eventually leading to West being charged with Rosemary as an accomplice with rape. She was also charged with child cruelty, and the remaining children were placed in foster care. The rape case against the West collapsed when the two main witnesses declined to testify at the court case on June 7, 1993. The police continued after to investigate the disappearance of their daughter, Heather. So basically, after being raped years later, although the rape was ongoing, but years later after the original situation that she told her friends, they went to the police and they started to investigate, but when they finally had enough to make a case, the friends didn't want to testify in court. But at this point, they now had gotten wind, basically, that Heather is still missing and they have no idea where she is. And so they decided to continue investigating the disappearance of Heather. After taking statements from social workers about a joke about Heather being buried under the patio by the children themselves, they obtained a further search warrant in February of 1994, allowing them to excavate the garden in search of Heather. They started searching the house and excavating the garden on the 24th of February. They started searching the house and excavating the garden on the 24th of February in 1994. Heather's body was found under the patio. After West's arrest the following day, the police uncovered human bones, basically everywhere in the yard. He confessed, retracted, and then reconfessed to the murder of his daughter, denying that Rosemary was involved. Rosemary was not arrested until April of 1994, initially on sex offenses, but later charged with murder. Further bodies were found, and on March 4th, 1994, West admitted that he had carried out 9 more murders, including those of his first wife, and Anne McFall. Fred and Rosemary West were brought before the magistrate's court in Gloucester on the 30th of June. He was charged with 11 murders, and she was charged with 10. Immediately afterwards, Fred West was rearrested on suspicion of murdering Anne McFall, whose body was found on June 7th, 1994. On the evening of July 3rd, he was charged with her murder. On January 1st, 1995, Fred West hanged himself while on remand in his cell at Winson Green Prison, Birmingham. His funeral was held in Coventry on March 29th, 1995. He was cremated with only 3 people present. The evidence against Rosemary was circumstantial. Unlike her husband, she did not confess. She was tried in October 1995 at Winchester Crown Court, found guilty of all 10 murders, and sentenced to life imprisonment. The trial judge recommended that she should never be released, and 18 months later, the then-serving Home Secretary agreed with this recommendation. In October of 1996, the West house, along with the adjoining property, was demolished and the site made into a pathway. Every brick was crushed and every timber was burned. In 2001, in a formal statement issued by Rosemary West through her attorney, who is still alive, by the way, and 65 years old, she says, "I do not believe that even if I was released, I could ever relax or feel free, be left alone, or have any peace of mind. More importantly, I would not be able to resume a normal relationship with my family." When asked about her daughter Anne-Marie, she says, "I would love to be reconciled and have contact with her." And when asked about documentaries made about Fred and herself, she says it can only open wounds or delay any healing process for the victim's family. So before I quickly finish, well, not quickly, but before I finish this off here, I just want to quickly go through the victims that we had that were, who were killed, obviously. So we have Charmaine West, who was born February 1963, who was killed in June 1971 by Rosemary West while Fred was in prison. We have Catherine Bernadette Reno West, Fred's first wife, born April 1944, who was killed in August 1971. We have Linda Go, who was killed in April 1973. She was a lodger at 25 Cromwell Street. Carol Ann Cooper, killed November 1973. Cooper was living in a children's home in Worcester. God damn it. When she disappeared while walking home from the cinema. Lucy Catherine Partington was killed December 1973. Spent Christmas with her family in Cheltenham and visited a friend and disappeared after leaving to catch a bus home. Teresa Singenthaler, killed in April 1974, a student in South London who left to hitchhike to Ireland and disappeared. Shirley Hubbard, killed November 1974, who left a work experience course in Droitwich to return home but never arrived. Juanita Marion Mott, killed April 1975, a former lodger at 25 Cromwell Street. She had been living with a friend of her mother's in Newent when she disappeared. Shirley Ann Robinson, killed May 1978, a lodger at 25 Cromwell Street, who disappeared after becoming pregnant with Fred's child. Allison Chambers, killed August 1971, ran away from a local children's home to become West's live-in nanny before she disappeared. And finally, Heather Ann West, who was killed in June of 1987.
Jeez.
Yeah, and that is Fred and Rosemary West. Yeah, just awful.
Ew.
Yeah, literally, I feel
Ew.
so drained. Yeah, I just feel so drained after going through all of that because it's bad and it just gets worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fuck those people, honestly.
Literally.
Trust your instincts. If you originally think a guy is fucking creepy, don't date him.
Truly. I mean, not that she was really any better.
I was gonna say, not that she was any kind of anything really, but if your employers ask you to join a sex ring, don't do it,
no.
and then leave. Don't go back. Just
possibly keep that in the back of your head, because
if you're into it, that's one thing. But it's just, I mean, and this was a long time ago too, and obviously just awful childhoods. So like I want to say extremely unique, but like, I mean, they just happened to find. It's just awful. It's just awful and sad, and I hate it.
Yeah, and a shitty childhood is not a fucking excuse to murder people.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like, I don't care. I'm sorry that your childhood sucked.
But, like...
There are many people whose childhoods sucked, and they're not murdering people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your own daughter? More than once, also.
Yeah.
Your
how many...
unborn daughter, and then your, like, adult daughter.
He ended up killing 4 of his children.
What the literal fuck?
Because there was Heather.
Also, maybe, just maybe, not the best idea to bury her under a porch.
And then make jokes about it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that just really kind of puts you at the crime. Yeah. Like, there's no way. Why is your daughter buried under your house? I don't know. Somebody must be trying to frame us. No.
Weird. You just didn't notice. Oh, and also, on top of her body, they had built a pond. Like a koi pond.
Oh.
So,
nice.
Just to brighten up the area, liven up the backyard.
Feng shui.
Yeah, no, it's like I don't even know how I don't even know what to say, you know?
Yeah. Rotten. Like, just
like absolutely rotten.
I mean, I don't, like, obviously, like, the whole point, like, at least for me, like, the whole fascination with, like, killers and stuff is that I don't understand.
Yes.
But this I just really don't understand. I just really don't understand, because anybody with half a brain knows that if a mom dies, the baby doesn't just chill in her stomach being like, hey, let me out. No, the baby's going to die because it's not going to have blood supply.
Or oxygen, yeah.
Or oxygen or food or anything. Like, the baby's going to die, and it won't be that long. Because once her organs start shutting down, the baby has, like, nothing to take care of it anymore.
Yeah.
And, like, that's, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I feel like that's common knowledge. But you decided to remove it.
Yeah, you just took it that one extra step
oxygen,
of
and, like, it would have been crying, and it would have been alive, and then you kill it? Like, what the That is, like, so... That is... I mean, like, murder is awful, but, like, that is so beyond, like...
I would say the height of depravity.
Yeah, like, because, like, I mean, like... I don't even know how to word this. Because, like, it's like with some of these people, it's like they're, like... filling some, like, void they feel.
Yeah.
What void were you feeling to do that?
Yeah.
What
to kill
void?
your child, like your literal fresh ass baby.
Birthed your child and then immediately killed it, basically.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And then to take it one step further, like I said, he fucking removed the toes, fingers, and kneecaps of all of his victims.
Like, the worst part, that's the worst part, is, like, he did the same thing
and then
to
he
the
mutilates
baby?
it. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Ugh. Rotten.
Pretty fucked up.
I mean, at least he's dead, but rotten.
Yeah. Yeah, and Rosemary West is
She's
not
still
dead.
kicking.
She's still kicking. I love that she wants to be reconciled and have contact with Anne-Marie.
No, bitch. No.
You told her that she asked for her father to rape her when she was 8 years old. You don't come back from that. And you helped fucking kill, like, 2 of her siblings. You don't come back from that.
No.
I would love to be reconciled. Great, because we would love you not to be.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you.
Pretty sure Anne-Marie also doesn't want it.
Yeah, well, obviously not.
What are you going to say, sorry?
Yeah,
or, like, don't accept your
sorry
apology?
about that. Yeah, literally. Like, yeah, great. Good for you. I'm not over it.
Yeah.
And nor should she be. That's just...
And, like, it's one thing to be, like, I mean, obviously I don't know where Anne-Marie's at in life, but, like, I feel like maybe she's kind of come to terms with, I would hope she's come to terms with things.
Yeah, let's bring it up a little bit. Danny, what is your favorite thing that's happened this week?
I'm trying to think what I did this week.
I have bad memory. Or even just happy memory. Doesn't have to be your favorite.
God, I'm so bad at this. My memory is rotten.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the worst.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So my happy memory this week is while I was doing all of my research and being kind of bummed, but, chill, just on my laptop for like 6 hours, my dog, Chi-Chi, would come and sit on my lap the entire time. So she'd just sit there and snore on my lap and hang out with me while I'm doing all of my work. So I'll post a picture of that on the Instagram, maybe on our story or something, but... That is my happy this week.
Okay, I do have one. I'm going to tail right off yours.
So I know what it is.
I have cats.
Yes.
My cats are angels, and I always feel like I talk about my cats so much. Mm-hmm. And, like, I feel like people are like, yeah, whatever, we get it. You fucking love your cats. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to explain to you, my cats are different. Mm-hmm. They're not regular cats. They're different. And my cousin and his girlfriend, we just stopped by my house to grab something before heading up to my grandma's, and they've never been to my house, so they never met my cats. Mm-hmm. And they came in, and they were like his girlfriend was like holding her, and they were like, I've never had a cat that like lets me just hold her like this. Yeah. And like, because Frankie, she likes to be held like a baby, like on her back, and she likes her belly rubbed like when you're holding her, and she's just like super tolerant of like everything. And I'm like,
Frankie never lets me do that to her.
Yeah, Frankie doesn't like you.
I was gonna say, Frankie doesn't fucking like
me.
No, Frankie doesn't like
when
me.
She comes here. I don't know why every time you come here, she's like on a rampage.
Well, I lived with you and the cats. So she's like, fucking this bitch again.
She wouldn't let me in her room.
Anyway, sorry, totally hijacked your story.
That's okay. But yeah, so I feel like I finally had that like moment of like somebody who hasn't met my cats meeting my cats and being like, wow,
how wonderful they are.
These are like really sweet cats. Because like they're really like, my cats aren't like, you know when you go to somebody's house and they're like, why the fuck are you here? And they like don't even get up. My cats like want to know why you're here, and they'll like rub up against you, and they're like excited that new people are in the house. Like they're like dogs.
Yes.
Like, cat dogs. They're like cat dogs. Like they're just always so happy when people are here, and like they want to like sit on your lap, and like they do. Like I love that they do that with other people. So that was my happy moment this week is that somebody who hasn't met my cat met my cats, and they felt the same way. And I didn't even gloat about my cats before they came over, and they were complimenting my cats when they got here. So
I guess they're pretty great.
Yes. It's nice to know it's not all in my head.
Well, that is a very good happy, I think. I like that one.
Thanks. I feel like a lot of my happies for episodes to come are probably
gonna be about your cats. That's fair. You know, it's anything that makes you happy. Yes. That's what matters.
Oh, also, I'm this bitch. I think I've talked about this before. This is my other happy, is I have half my Christmas shopping done and it's all wrapped.
Oh my god. I'm gonna vomit. You're fucking nuts.
Okay.
I'm trying to get mine done early.
Don't know, we talked about this last time. Everyone in my family is a Sag, which means that they're born in fucking December.
Yes, true.
My grandma, both my grandmas, my mom's mom and my dad's mom have the same birthday. My mom, my 3 stepsisters, my mom's boyfriend, and my best friend are all born in the month of December.
Yes.
So December is the worst month of my life. Financially, worst month of my life. Not only is it Christmas, it's everybody who's important to me's birthday. Yeah. What the hell?
Let us know what you think. If you have suggestions, if you think it's great, let me know either way. Where can they find us, Danny? Or where can you find us?
Silence of the Hags across the board, my friends.
Everywhere.
Silence of the Hags on Instagram. Silence of the Hags at Gmail.
Yeah.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, YouTube. Pocket Cast.
Okay, guys. I think that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following us. Oh, make sure you give us some 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, please.
We'll even take 4 if you're offering them.
I personally will take 5 or bust. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Have a great night and stay sane.
Yes, we'll see you next
Biden
week.
2020.
Yes.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week for another serial killer episode.
Another serial killer. And then, mini-sode too. Or
next week too.
Like a deadly detour
next week
Sweet.
too.
Can't wait. That's going to be a fun one. We're going to keep our detours fun, upbeat, funky. Spunky, other good adjectives. So, yeah.
Various positive adjectives.
Okay, I'm quitting while I'm ahead. Okay. All right, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.